My name's Jill Rowe, and in this episode of the Different Podcast, I talk with Steve Chalke all about the wonder of ambiguity, starting from observing a Spanish town square in a power cut, all the way to how we can develop the ability to find our way in the dark when we aren't feeling sure at all. So much of life is navigated in ambiguity. So together we chat about how we can grow to not despise it, but welcome it, and see it all as a creative invitation. We realise once more the anchor of vision and see the truth that we don't need to know everything to take the next step. We just need to know enough. And we also need enough foolishness to believe that we can do what needs to be done. Steve Chalke, wonderful.
Jill Rowe.
Wonderful to see you again.
It's always wonderful, actually, because I love these conversations we have. It seems like letting go of all responsibility.
I was thinking that actually today. I was thinking, actually, this is just a really nice thing to be doing.
No decisions to be made. Yeah, and we have to turn off our phones.
Which is even better.
Yeah, because of the signal that, the digital signal goes in the middle
moment,
and you're not allowed to have any of that. So I have no idea who's emailing me about anything. Woohoo! Way to live.
Love it. You know what you can do? Just leave your charger at home sometime and then when it dies, it's dead, right? So, Steve, I was thinking about, do you remember just recently there was that massive power cut in part of Europe? And I think it was majority Spain.
And then it spread out elsewhere, didn't it?
France, a bit of Portugal.
Yeah.
And
that's giant, isn't it?
Yeah.
It lasted forever as well, didn't it?
It was a couple of days, 2 days or something?
Yeah, it was on and they couldn't work out why.
Why it was. But there was loads of coverage, wasn't there, on the news about it. And they were interviewing people, and there were these definite two groups of people, right? There were the people for whom this was something to very much complain about. And obviously it was a huge inconvenience and massive challenge if you were running a hospital. I mean, just the whole thing is massive. You lose electricity. But there was a group of people that were, well, this isn't, wanted everything fixed there and then. But then there was this other group of people, and they showed images of people in like the Spanish, in Spanish town squares, and there'd be just the whole community had come outside, whether it was daytime or dusk, and there were children playing together and people reading together, and some people with their guitars were singing, and I thought it was really interesting that in the not knowing, you've got a group of people who their go-to is, oh, this is awful, and then you've got another group of people who, we could just do something different in this not knowing. And then I was thinking about, I grew up in this little small village in Hampshire, and they were wasn't a tiny village or anything like that, but we didn't have streetlights anywhere. So it was quite a thing that it was, I think we were actually quite proud as a village about the fact that we didn't have streetlights. But it meant that if, literally, when it was dark, you walked out in the dark.
Pitch black dark.
But you got accustomed to being in the ambiguity of the dark. And you started to be able to see in the darkness. And
not afraid of it.
And not be afraid of it. So I literally remember just walking home in the pitch black and not even, because you knew, oh, it's okay. This is here. We'll get there. It'll be okay.
Wow.
And Steve, in your life, in my life, in the journey even of Oasis, ambiguity, not knowing, not being certain, isn't something we have to complain about, is it? It's actually evidence, perhaps, of we're on the right path.
Yeah, never a truer word. I remember donkeys years ago, somebody told me, and it's one of those things I've never forgotten, so I know it made sense then, and it still makes sense now. They said, I wish I could say exactly as they said it, but they said, Steve, certainty is the enemy of leadership.
Wow.
Your lid on leadership is your lack of ability, your ability or lack of it, to live with unknowingness,
right.
to live with ambiguity. That the more ambiguity you are able to live with, the further you can get as a leader.
Okay.
The less ambiguity you can deal with, well, that's the ceiling. That's the end. You shut yourself down. You shut yourself in. It meant a lot to me at the time. I can't remember my circumstances and the struggles I was having.
At which point in the journey?
Yeah, but it really did resonate with me.
Yeah.
But looking back on it, for instance, a project that we've now got up and away, Oasis Restore, which is the therapeutic alternative to a youth jail.
Yeah.
It's not penal, it's caring, it's about restoration, Oasis Restore.
We've got youth workers, haven't we? And
youth workers instead of
guards
and teachers and health workers, and bedrooms instead of cells, and all the rest of it. It's care, it's care. That's not to say that we don't take the crimes committed seriously, nor the victims of those crimes and their pain seriously. But it's to say that we know that there's a better way than just putting people through a penal system which turns them out worse than they arrived, and they go on to reoffend and make society less safe.
Trauma on trauma.
But the point is this: the first conversation I had about the possibility of running Restore, I didn't know his name then, or many of the details, of course, was in July 2010. And we opened it in August 2024. That's 14 years
of ambiguity.
And hanging on and working for it and not giving up. And then people say to you, Steve, it's not worth it. It won't work. This will never happen. We won't be able to do this. And even, 7 years, I think it was, 6 years perhaps, before we actually opened, we got the go-ahead eventually from government to do this. But it was, it was 8 years, therefore, before we got 8 years of not knowing at that level. Yeah. And then there was endless more not knowing, and people said, no, even though it's been agreed, it will never happen. And and there were loads of reasons, I won't go into them, for why the threats to it. But you wade through all of this, and there were times when I actually came almost to believe what everybody was telling me. They won't allow it to happen. There are people against this. There isn't the budget for it. It's taken too long. Government's attitude to these things has changed. There are new people in power now, new chief officers and all the rest of it, ministers. They have different ideas. Then it wasn't their idea. They won't vote for it. Now, all of that, and you have to keep on just going, just plodding through it all and live with that ambiguity. There's a hero of mine, is a guy called William Carey, lived a long time ago. He founded what's called the Baptist Missionary Society a long time ago. Do you know, I've read stuff he wrote, and he was a good guy. And he says this all the time. He said, I'm not smart, I'm just a plodder. I know how to plod. And I've often thought that about me. Have I learned how to plod? That's all I want to do. And I think that it's that plodding through ambiguity, but not giving up.
Because what I also observe, Steve, is like you may not know all the detail, but you're driven.
Or any of the detail.
It's true.
And it really is true.
No, it really is true.
Because that's what people say to you. It was happening the other day on another project. Sorry, don't hold your thread.
I will hold my thought.
And some people sat me down And we're talking about a big project that's not happened yet. Yeah. And they said, but what about this? And what about that? And what about that? And how much will this cost? And how much will that cost? And they're all great questions. I mean, they are great questions to which there will have to be answers as we go down the line. Yet. But not yet. It's like, we're going to build a rocket to go to the moon, said Kennedy, And if someone said, yeah, but, what size bolts are we going to use on the rocket blasters? You can't know that at the beginning, but you will find an answer.
So do you think that is a bit of an indication? So someone who's able to go, let's get on the road, let's make this work as we move through the journey, is someone that can live with ambiguity and lead in the ambiguity. But one of the things that I noticed, and I haven't, I've worked with you for years now, Steve, many, many, many years. You are always really clear about the vision. You may not know the detail, but you are absolutely clear about vision. And I wonder if that, for me, I think that is one of the anchor points that enables you to be in the ambiguity. Because your clarity about what the end goal is ultimately, about young people thriving and the world be like that, even though sometimes it can feel like we're perhaps clinging on for dear life to that, because that, I guess, is quite, it's massive, but it's also very simple. Yes. It almost gives you a foolish courage that goes, no, does that make any sense?
No, it does make sense. I hope it's not foolish. Perhaps it sounds it. Perhaps I think it is sometimes.
A good foolishness.
Yeah. Perhaps I think it is myself sometimes when if you get too much negativity piled in to you all the time. But I'll tell you a funny story. It just happened to be the other week. Well, the second half happened the other week since last time we met, in fact. So the bit that you will know, years and years and years and years and years ago, 20-something years ago, when I first said to one of our boards, which isn't the board that runs our schools now, it was another one, I think we should set up a school because I've had a chat with the Prime Minister and he thinks we should, however I put it. Yeah. It was really funny looking back on it because they all said, what do you know? What do we know? You don't know anything about education. You can't run a school. We can't run a school. It wasn't just a passing comment. It was the mood. Yeah. Guys, this is stupid. But it was, explicit conversations. Yeah. What do you know? What do you know? Well, the funny thing is, it is a very funny thing, and it recalled that months-long conversation to me. A few weeks ago, I went to speak at a huge event, with hundreds and hundreds of educational leaders and leaders of multi-academy trusts, things like that, in one of the biggest halls in Britain. Yeah. And I was on this main stage, and the person who introduced me said, as I was waiting in the wings, they said, and now, ladies and gentlemen, they said, they built it up. It was ridiculous. Yeah, what a privilege. One of the most experienced and best qualified educationalists in Britain is here to speak to us. And I'm standing there thinking, I wonder who that is. Let me speak to someone else. Steve Chalke, and how I go. And of course, both of these things are imposters. Yes. That's the truth. Yeah. I don't know. What do I know about anything much, But here's the thing. They were wrong when they said, you don't understand enough about this to do it. And they were also wrong when they said I was one of the most qualified people in the world to talk about it. Because we're all strugglers. Yeah. We're plodders. We're making it up as we go along. Yeah. But we know what justice looks like. Yeah. We know what justice looks like. We know what the world's supposed to be like. We know that opportunity should exist for every young person. We know that that's not just for their sake, it's for our economy, isn't it? How can this
just on a logic basis?
I know.
It's like,
how can, look, I don't want to say anything political, right? But we all get down on the Chancellor of the Exchequer. I mean, any Chancellor of the Exchequer, but, this one, etc., etc. Here's the truth. We are a tiny little island, right? We know that when the world used to be coloured our colour, you remember? It was all pink, and with England and the British Isles in the middle. Yeah. And it's all to do with... But we're a tiny little island. There's a massive country known as India. I happen to be half Indian, but India's economy is huge and booming. It's a tiger. China, as Donald Trump would say, and America. The only question is, will Europe work together instead of fight each other and become part of that and have a say at that table? Because that's the table. Yeah. And for us, little England, to think that someone sitting in number 10 Downing Street or at number 11 or anywhere else can sort it all out. We have to engage with the world as it is, So that's the vision. Yeah. Now, how you do that is the complexity. Yeah. But that's the task, and we need to do that. And that's for our economy, and that's for every child. Yeah. And every family in this country. So I've gone on a rant.
It's amazing.
I don't even know what we're talking about. Amen. I don't even know what we're talking about anymore. But you've got to hold that, and then the detail works itself out.
Yeah. So whether you're a leader or not, in the ambiguity of life, or in the ambiguity of your business that you're in, or in the ambiguity of, anything, you have to anchor yourself to a vision, which you would, like we would talk about, we give our lives to this vision of. Yeah.
And you're not called to know everything. No. Because you can't know anything. And even if you tell everybody you know everything, you're wrong. Yeah. Because it's going to work out differently. It's going to be, the project will be built differently to the way you thought it would be built. Yeah. But we are called to be courageous, to be brave, and to be discontented. I think that's the important thing. To be dissatisfied, to be impatient. Yeah. That's what we're asked to be if we're going to change the world for the better, or our lives for the better, or our families' lives for the better, or our communities' lives for the better. And if we can't be bothered to do that, then we're spare to history.
Yeah. So we lead with vision and we live with vision, but we need to lead out of and live out of our values, Steve, as well, don't we? So these are all anchoring things. So if I said there were some people that, the blackout happens, the lights go out in Spain and Portugal and France, and there's some people that complain. And then there's other people that go, but let's do this, let's do this, let's do this. You can only do that if you have this strong sense of what you are about, what you are here to do, in relation to the, on the platform that you're talking about.
Yeah, I was going to tell another illustration, which is completely different. It's I've known Cornelia, my wife, since I was 12. Really, and I've always liked her. Yeah. I had a little dog when I was 12, and I took it around her house, and it weed on her mother's carpet. Yeah, it's kind of like, she still talks about that. I'm still not quite forgiven for that. Anyway, the thing is, so in the end, I mean, years and years it went by, and when we were in our 20s, I actually went out with her, and then I asked her to marry me, right? Or perhaps it worked. I can't remember which way.
Did she get down on one knee?
No, I didn't, which she always beats me up for, well, understandably. All right. But I can't remember if I'd actually asked her to marry me or if I had asked her to marry and then doubted it. Right. Oh, okay. But here's the point was, perhaps it was before I asked, I can't remember now. I honestly can't remember. But what I do remember about it is I was at theological college and I was thinking, shall I marry Cornelia or not? Or perhaps worse, I'd asked her to marry me and then decided I wasn't really sure. I can't remember. Honestly can't remember. But it was terrible. And it was, she knows about this. There's all this angst going through me, you know,
Is it the right
ambiguity
thing?
again. So what I did is I went to see the principal of our college. It was called the Reverend Dr. Raymond Brown, who was just such a wonderful man and is still alive and very elderly. I went to see him a few years ago in his 90s and just, you know, took him out for lunch. He's just such a wonderful man. Yeah. But I went to see him and I looked up to him because I'm a student and he's the boss of our college, you know. And I sat down with him and he was very, I'd call holy. Yeah. You know, like, and not at all like me. Kind of like very peaceful and all the rest of it. And so I'd booked to see him and he said, well, what do you want to talk about? And I slowly got this out in a disjointed way. And I said, you know, and so the thing is, you know, I'm Cornelia. I met Cornelia and I've known her for years and years and years. And
dogweed on a carpet.
Yeah, I didn't tell him my dog weed on her mum's carpet, you know, and all this kind of stuff. I didn't tell him that bit actually, but it's true. And then I said, and now she wants to marry me. I think I must have therefore proposed to her. And I said, and I'm so like, shall I, shan't I, and have I made a mistake, and am I going to make a mistake for her, and is it all terrible, and should we give up? And I just don't know what to do. I really don't know what to do. I'm living in this ambiguity, you know, and there's mess. And he looked at me and I knew what he was going to say. I knew he was going to say, well, because he was a holy man, he was going to say, well, Steve, go away and pray about it. And pray about it every day for a month. And if God gives you clarity, then do it. I just knew he was going to say that. And I was totally shocked. He said, I'd go away and get on with it. He said, what are you worried about? He said, get on with it. He said, if something disastrous happens, then you'll really know that you shouldn't do it. But I trust your hunch and go for it.
Brilliant.
And it was so like unreligious, non-religious. And it was so down to earth. Yeah. And it was so like, oh, okay. Yeah. It's okay to live with ambiguity. Because before you get married, you know, I was thinking about, because I was training to be a minister, I was thinking about all those vows to, you know, to have and to hold in for sickness and in health.
Richer for poorer.
For richer for poorer, to love until cherished, till death us do part. I was thinking, wow, that's like it's some serious stuff there, isn't it? Sickness and health, and who knows what's going to happen to us, and who's going to get dementia and who's not, or, you know, or what's going to happen to us. You just have no idea. And I was trying to compute all this and work out all these answers and wondering whether I was someone who could live up to all this stuff or couldn't, and was pretty sure I couldn't, because I couldn't even work out what the equation was going to be. And I knew I'd gone to the man who was going to warn me. Yeah. And he just said, do it.
Yeah. It's a bit like when I came to work for Oasis.
Exactly. Actually. And you see, and that's it. And Ray Brown's thing, get back to you coming to work for Oasis, but Raymond Brown's thing to me, it wasn't shallow. It wasn't dismissive. No. It was a deep knowing that knows that life is full of uncertain pathways. Absolutely. And said, commit anyway, which is exactly like what it was when you came to work for Oasis.
So I remember I had a piece of paper and I was like, what shall I do? What shall I do about this? And on the left-hand side of the piece of paper, I wrote what would happen if I stayed, didn't come to Oasis. And on the right-hand side, I wrote, this is what I think what could be. And I just looked at it and I went, well, let's give it a go. And literally that was it.
And here we are. How many years later?
28.
28 years later.
Yeah.
So, and it was only the first year we didn't pay for.
There's excitement in the ambiguity. There's freedom in the not knowing, actually.
And there's hope in the ambiguity as well, isn't there? And one of the things we just had a national conference for our senior staff. Yeah. And one of the things I said there, because it's the thing that I've learned and understood from others, that hope isn't a soft, meaningless, gentle thing. Hope is a warrior. Yeah. It's a warrior attitude. hope challenges life.
Yeah.
And hope is learned through ambiguity and through fear and through pain. And it's learned through failures as well.
And the plodding.
So hope is hard earned. And the other thing is, hope makes demands on us.
Yes.
To hope isn't an airy, fairy, soft thing. It's a tough thing. It makes massive demands on you. And it can often, Jill, I know you know this because you just said it, it can often feel like the loneliest place in the world. The loneliest place in the world. But hope is also our saviour as we press on through ambiguity to fulfill our destiny.
Yeah. There's that bit in the Old, and I can't quite remember where it is. It's in the Old Testament where it just says, whether you turn to the left or the right, you'll hear a voice behind you saying, this is the way, walk in it. I think it's really funny that the voice is behind you, not in front of you.
Yeah.
That's funny.
Yeah.
Like just walk.
Walk.
Just
whether you turn
on.
to the left or the right.
Yeah. So ambiguity, living in the grey, don't rush it, be present into it. The other day, it was a couple of weeks ago, I can't even remember when it was, recently. It was the solstice night, was that the 21st of June or something like that? And where I live in South London, it's right near, so quite near a hill. And a
big hill.
And it was actually right near the Horniman Museum. So I'd gone out to pick something up in my car. And I thought, just on the way back, I'll come over round the back of the museum. Because at that crest of the hill, it's just, you can beat the South Cirque, if you do. Mm-hmm. And as I was coming up the hill, I suddenly realised that across the top of the hill, so there's, it's literally just the road at the top. And then you just normally go straight over it and down steep the other side. There's all these people standing along the top, right on the crest of the hill. I was like, what are they doing there? It was totally random. But as I was coming up the hill and you get to the crest of the hill, then you suddenly realise they are all stood there because you can view, it's an amazing view. You can view right across London. You can see all the way to the Wembley Arch. And that night, amazing sunset happening, absolutely huge ball of fire coming down, sinking down over London. So there were photographers out, there were people coming out of their houses. It was absolutely beautiful. I stopped my car, people were stopping their cars to watch what was happening. But the people at the bottom of the hill had no idea that was going on. And one of the things that I've realised, because I love sunrises and sunsets, and I don't know, it's just me, isn't it? It's a weird thing. But actually, I've realised for me, that's one of the things that helps me in my ambiguity. Because I love to get up early and I love to watch a sunrise because I'm like, today's a new day. What could today be? And when the sun goes down, I'm like, that's going to come back up tomorrow and there's nothing that I can do to stop that happening. So I'm not in control, but today's happened. So tomorrow will bring what tomorrow brings and I just need to turn up as the best I can into it. And it's just this practice I have of sunrise, sunset, and somehow it grounds me in all the not knowing that exists in work and life and all the rest of it. That I am a part of something much bigger that just happens, that goes on. Does that make sense?
It makes huge sense, Jill. It's been great talking about this. I suppose it's really that courage looks ambiguity right in the eye.
Absolutely.
Says, let's do it anyway.
Yeah. Thanks, Steve.